This episode is about trying to get ready for Georgia Grundle Run. I'll spoil it for you a little bit. Doesn't exactly have a happy ending, and that's just reality. Like, that's the way it goes sometimes. Some of the problems that you'll see in this episode are just like old Harley stuff. Some of the problems are self-inflicted, either me doing the wrong thing or just not knowing what to do. And some of these problems are just plain sheer bad luck. Yeah, I hope you enjoy watching this. Thanks for watching as always. Okay, so we made it out here to the shop. It's raining, you can probably hear it. And we gotta work on the Shovelhead today. So Kenny's gonna help me for a little bit. Nice dance moves, dude. This is like part 2 of me getting this bike ready for Georgia Grundle Run. So what I'm gonna do is show y'all where I'm at. I've done some work on this off camera that I didn't record. I'll show you where I'm at. I'll show y'all where we're going. Hopefully at the end of this episode we'll have a bike that's running and riding enough, and I will have put enough shakedown miles on it that I trust it to take to Grundle Run, which is in 7 days. Today is September the 6th. Georgia Grundle Run is on the 12th through 14th. So really, I've only got a week left to go. Less than a week, honestly. So let's jump right into it. I'll show you all what we're working with. So my biggest issue with this bike at the end of last episode was in the transmission. And I pulled the shift lid, the ratchet top, off of this bike. Yep, it's underneath that set of pliers there. Which means that, yep, thank you, Kenneth. It means that obviously I had to essentially unwire the bike, all the wiring's out of it, the oil tank and the batteries laying there on the floor. And if you were paying a whole lot of attention last time, you might notice that that's not the shifter lid that was on this bike. So here is the shift lid, the ratchet top, that was on this bike. This was something that came out of my Uncle Rich's parts stash, and I put it on this bike while I had the transmission out of the motorcycle, and it felt like it shifted pretty good just by hand. It seemed like it was in good shape. This has the later style cast shift drum. I think this came out in 73, and they ran with this from like 73 or 74 through 79-ish, and then the cow pie transmission came out. And basically what was going on is I couldn't shift this thing into second gear. I could skip second, get it into third, and it would sometimes grab fourth and hold, and sometimes not. This is a shift finger roller, and the shift finger rollers on these go on top of the shift forks, and this was missing off of one of the shift forks. This is the later style cast shift cam, and this is an earlier style shift drum. And those shift finger rollers right here go on top of the shift forks. If you drop one into the later style cam, we'll zoom in on it, and you wiggle it around, there's a bunch of play in there. There's nothing wrong here. It's just kind of how these are. But I got thinking, I was like, you know, you drop that same roller into the earlier drum, there's so much less play. I have to think this is going to shift better. So I had an extra ratchet top just laying around that had that earlier drum assembly in it, and I was actually able to get it timed onto the bike much easier than that other one with the later cast shift cam. And there's something else going on that I think was hurting me. And that was here, you can see on this other ratchet top, this other shift lid, that I have the pawl carrier assembly taken out of it, and the shift pawls are out of this top. Zoom in those. These are the little pawls. They ride inside of that groove right there, and they have springs on them that go behind the shift pawls, and then there's another set of springs also in there too. Those springs are worn very heavily. They're really flat, like right in there. It's hard to see. It's kind of dark in here, and I can't zoom in any further. But they're flat to the point they're rubbed and worn flat. Both of the springs are, but one of them's worse than the other one. That one's pretty bad. add 2 down there. So, long story short, I put 2 new shift rollers on top of the shift forks. I threw another ratchet top lid that I had that had the older style drum in it, and then I'll come back and fix the shifter pawl springs on that other one just later. So I picked the bike up on a work stand, took the spark plugs out of the engine, and spent some time turning the rear wheel over by hand while shifting it through the gears with the foot shifter. It seemed like it would shift through all the gears just fine, had a good engagement in every gear. So Kenneth and I spent a little bit of time putting everything back together on this bike, putting all the brackets and rewiring it, putting the oil tank back in it, and hooking up all the oil lines, putting the clutch cable in, etc. Finally, after working on it for a few, short hours, we were ready to push this thing back outside into the daylight and try it out. This was actually the next day. We had worked on this into the evening and quit for dinner. So the next morning we woke up, got the bike out of the shed, and it's time to kick it over and take it down the street for a test ride. Following video clips are shot by Kenneth. I realize they aren't perfect, but he's 8 years old. If you have any complaints about the video quality of these next few clips, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it.
Still recording? Yeah.
There he is, cameraman extraordinaire. Victory dance. Because we got all 4 gears. I got all 4 of them on the way down the driveway, down the street rather. This thing shifts good. Nice. Good work, dude. So the next day I packed up my tools and everything else I was going to need on this bike. Brought some wrenches, Phillips and flathead screwdrivers, adjustable wrench, a little multi-tool, shop rag. Got the bright idea to take the wrenches and wrap them up in the shop rag so maybe they didn't make so much noise. Stuffed it all back in my little pouch there. I also brought some zip ties and some mechanics wire and some electrical tape, cigarette lighter, basically everything I needed, and a quart of oil. Then it was time to throw all this in the bike and actually put some shakedown miles on this thing. Alright, so I got the bike ready to go out the driveway. Everything that y'all saw back there in the shop is now in this bag right here, in addition to fire extinguisher, registration, insurance cards, and then all my personal stuff will go over here in this bag. Obviously I've got sleeping bag strapped to the handlebars, so this thing's looking pretty good, sitting here shining in the sun. I'm gonna go put some miles on it and make sure the sleeping bag doesn't come off, see how it rides with some actual weight back in the saddlebags there, and hopefully we don't have any malfunctions. It is currently Monday and I'm leaving for Grundle Run on Friday, so yeah. So the external microphone on my GoPro has basically completely failed, and the vast majority of the GoPro audio that I shot on that morning was essentially unusable. But basically at this point in time, I've left my street, I'm going down the road, everything's great. Goes into first gear just fine, it can shift into second. I shifted into third here in just a second, everything's good, and then I grab fourth gear and it sticks in it. Doesn't chug, doesn't jump out of fourth gear, everything's great. So it's like 58 degrees, it's a beautiful sunshine September morning. I'm cruising along on my little orange Shovelhead, daydreaming about all the fun and adventures I'm about to have with old and new friends in a few days, and everything's you know, right in the world. Everything's how it should be. You can see it was like a really super pretty morning. Like, this was some of the greatest riding weather you could possibly ask for, and I was just having a great morning thinking that I had fixed my bike. So I took it easy for probably 6 or 8 miles, just easy on the throttle, easy on the shifting, and everything seemed fine. And then eventually I got to a straightaway, and I said, you know, let's hammer on this thing a little bit. So I opened it up in 3rd gear, and everything seemed fine there too. Here's the clip of that. So everything seemed fine there, and a few miles later I get to a stop sign, lower the idle on the carburetor since the bike's now fully warm. Then you can see I'm about to pull out onto a 4-lane state highway. So I said, you know what, let's rip on it through all the gears, and this is where the trouble really starts. Like to shift. Yeah, it doesn't shift very well when you're really wailing on it. There's also not a lot of room between the shifter and the foot peg. I can't quite get my foot under it the way I'd like. I might just need a little adjusting there. Shifting again. Banging and clanging in gear. That was 3rd gear. God mighty. Again, I apologize about the pops and the noise in those clips, but I left it in there just so you could actually hear this thing screwing up. Anyways, I tried to limp it home. It was impossible to shift it into 2nd gear. Sometimes you could skip into 3rd. Sometimes you could bump it back down into 1st and then skip to 3rd. But other times you would just get essentially hung in no gear and have to completely stop, which is very unsafe and very unfun. So I walked away from this thing and just went inside for like an hour and a half and had a cup of tea and did a little bit of paperwork on my computer and made a few business phone calls and such, and I've walked back out here to this, and essentially this is what I found. I tried just shifting this bike through the gears by hand and found that it was hanging up. It's like it was hitting a brick wall and I couldn't shift this thing. And I noticed that my shift linkage, one of the nuts had worked itself, vibrated itself a little bit loose. It was the one down there. That one's kind of hard to get a wrench on. And this linkage had turned, and you can see right here where there's like a rub mark where it's rubbing on the primary. And so I've been out here fooling with this linkage for a while, and I've lengthened it, I've shortened it, I've flipped the rod around, and essentially what I've come up with is this. This is the best I can get it, but it's still, like, it's just barely off of that inner primary housing right there. Here's my pocket knife. So you can see, like, I can scooch my pocket knife in there, but I would really like some more clearance for as much as one of these bikes shakes and vibrates as it goes down the road. I would really like this rod to be like up here, but it's not possible because of the way the arm on these foot controls is made. This is a Prism Supply foot controls. This is their slingshot controls. These are made here in the US, up in outside of Charlotte. Local guys to me. This is a really nice set of controls, but it's like, at least on my bike and my primary, if this was an inch taller and your hole for your clevis pin was like up here, I'll show you. If that was like up there, everything would be kosher. these are stainless, so I can't even weld an extension on. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rod completely off and try and rebend it. All right, so that looks a little bit more like what I think this should look like. You can see we've got plenty of space there. It's all still just kind of loose here, but let's see how this shifts just by hand. First, neutral. Second, it does still kind of clunk in a second. There's third. Amazingly, I did that without rolling the bike. Second again, neutral. First, back to neutral. I'm gonna try and lock this down, and I guess we'll try and go for a ride. Let's see what happens. And what happened was I still couldn't shift into second gear. I basically went to the end of the street, turned around, and immediately came home. I was pretty frustrated at this point in time. So I'm calling it on this bike. I'm frustrated, but it's fine. I'll get over it. It's kind of how it goes. At the point in time when everything goes wrong, you know, you want to roll it off a cliff and be mad at it. But as usual, just giving it a little time and walking away from it for a few days, I'll get over it. So I'm out here in the shop, and you might notice that the sleeping bag has migrated to the blue bike, to the Ironhead. And I spent a lot of time trying to get a sissy bar on this thing. You can see I've been beating and hammering and cutting and grinding. So this sissy bar was actually stuck in the mount. One of the Allen bolts just would not come free, and ended up having to cut and grind and drill the bolt out of this thing, which is fun, like always. It's never easy. But basically, this was a sissy bar that was on the Shovelhead. It was in those mounts, and I've got a set of Ironhead sissy bar mounts for one of these bikes. They go kind of like that, but my problem with this is that it doesn't quite line up exactly. I've already scratched the paint right there on this bike, and I'm kind of sick about that. This bike has really nice paint. And the other thing was that when you did get it all lined up, I was just kind of mocking it up, that the sissy bar ends up just destroying the seat. It's got it like that basically and squished down, and it'd probably be okay for a little while, but that's a really nice Corbin seat. It's an old Corbin seat, still a CG logo. It's been on this bike for a long time, and it's still in really nice shape, and I don't want to ruin it. I'm not ruining a good seat over a sissy bar. So here's what I've come up with is I've strapped the sleeping bag to this little small luggage rack that's on this thing. All of those tools that I had in that little green pencil pouch have amazingly managed to stuff them inside of this front pouch. This bike also gave me a nice little surprise, and then I have a flat tire. I don't have time to take it to the tire shop. I've got too much work to do for everybody else this week. Like I said earlier in the video, today is the only day I have to devote to my own stuff. So, thankfully, the Shovelhead, which is we've now basically decided is out of commission, has an FX front end on it, which is then essentially these two bikes have the same front end, and they have the same mag wheels, and I'm almost positive I can rob the mag wheel off of the shovel and throw it into the Ironhead. Alright, so both of the bikes are up on stands, missing their front wheels, and this is like a close but not quite situation. I'll show you what we got going on. So this is the wheel out of the Sportster, out of the XL. This is the wheel out of the big bike, out of the Big Twin, the FX front end. Very similar, but not exactly. You see if I zoom in here, so you can see that there's kind of like this recess right here around the center of that hub, and this sits up a little bit proud of that. And there's also the hole in there for the speedometer drive to go into, and the other side of the wheel is identical. But if we come over to the wheel that came out of the Shovelhead, I don't have that spacer. It's perfectly flat. This is flush and even with each other right there in the center of the wheel, and there's obviously no hole for the speedometer drive hub. This makes sense, being as how the big twins drive the speedometer off of the transmission, whereas a Sportster drives it off of the front wheel. And the speedometer drive gear, it's not really a gear, but the speedometer drive on a Sportster, as you can see hanging there from the front of my bike, essentially has a spacer built into it, and so that's why this is slightly different than that. I'm almost certain that I could pull all of the rotors off of both of these wheels and swap that stuff around. I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked in a parts manual, I haven't looked in the shop manual, but I'm pretty sure that those are just spacers that go into the hub, on top of the hub, underneath the rotor. But you have to get the rotor bolts out in order to do that. And my last experience with rotor bolts was on this bike, on the blue bike, and I ended up having to weld 1/2-inch nuts to the heads of the Allen bolts. A lot of times rotor bolts are put in with red Loctite, and so you have to heat red Loctite to get it out. And even heating the bolts with the torch wasn't good enough. I ended up having to weld bolts to the Allen, the countersunk Allen bolts that went into the wheel hub, and then take them out with an impact and then replace all the bolts. I don't have enough extra rotor bolts. I've got a little box of, I don't know if y'all can read that, rotor bolts. I've got a whole bunch of rotor bolts, you know, like there's some right there. Those are for 78 to 83 FX Wide Glide. So these are front ones though. These would be front rotor bolts for that orange bike. I have some rotor bolts. I don't have enough of the right kind. My welder's not even here. It's at my buddy's house. And the whole reason I haven't just called a tire shop to do this, or taken this to a tire shop, is because I've called all the tire shops and they were all like, oh yeah, we can do your motorcycle tire, dude, but we're so busy right now, you can leave it with us. It'll be 2 or 3 days before we get to it, if we can even get to it. It might be next week. I'm like, the things I want to say I can't say on camera. Yeah, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do have a really cheap, like a Harbor Freight manual tire bead breaker deal thing at the house, so maybe I'll try that on the Ironhead wheel. So there's the wheel on the stand. I've broken the bead. Before I did this, I did spray it down with some soapy water, which is why it's nice and clean, to see was it the bead leaking or not, and it wasn't. There's a little scratch right there. You probably can't even see it on camera. It's extremely hard to see, even in person. And I'm not strong enough and it's too dark in there, but if you pull this bead down and look down inside of there, there's like shards of rubber. It looks like the exit wound of a bullet, like how a bullet will pull flesh or cloth through a cavity as it goes through something. That's what that looks like. So I must have hit something. I bet I did it just right before home because I didn't have a flat tire the last time I rode this bike. I rode this bike on Friday. Today is Monday. I rode like 35 or 40 miles on it the other day and everything was great. I don't remember hitting anything, but you know, I'm often riding on poorly maintained county, country back roads, so evidently something went through this tire the last time I rode it. If I'm having a hard time finding someone to fix a tire in 2 or 3 days, I'm probably gonna have a hard time finding someone to replace a tire, if they even keep one of these Metzler tires in stock. A lot of places don't seem to. And I thought about maybe taking the tire off that wheel to put onto this wheel. But honestly, y'all, that's just too much work. I don't really feel like fooling with that with tire irons and trying to do it here, sweating and cussing, and then hope that it's balanced. I think this is honestly just the universe's way of telling me I'm not meant to go to a Grundle Run this year, which is fine, though quite disappointing. So we're gonna wrap this one up here. Basically, I've tried really, really hard to get one of the bikes ready. Honestly, I wasn't expecting the Ironhead to have a flat tire, and nobody in town can get to it in the next couple of days. I'm so busy the next couple of days that even if they could get to it, I probably don't actually even have the time to bring a tire to them or bring the wheel over to them. You know what I'm trying to say. That was really a curveball. Like I kind of, I've been working on the Shovelhead the last 5 or 6 weeks trying to get it ready for Grundle Run. But I always had in the back of my head, I'm like, if that fails, you can find a way, you're creative, Paul, you can find a way to strap some crap onto the Ironhead and just take the old reliable blue bike. And I guess the universe had different plans for me, It's just how it goes. We don't always get what we want in life. I'm pretty disappointed about this. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I know there's a lot of people who were looking forward to meeting me, and I was looking forward to meeting you. Whether you're someone that I message with, like on Instagram, you're just someone that leaves comments here and I reply to your comments. I try and reply to as many comments as possible. Or you're another YouTuber. There's a bunch of people from YouTube who are going to be there that I was looking forward to meeting. And I've tried and tried and tried. Y'all have watched it in this episode. Like I said at the very start of this episode, some of this stuff that you've seen is just like old Harley problems. Some of this is self-inflicted. I guess it's my own fault. I should have taken the transmission all the way down when I had the chance, and I didn't, and now it's come back to bite me in the butt. At the time I had the transmission out, I didn't really see a need to tear it down. The gears looked pretty good. The shift dogs looked pretty good. They were somewhere on the dogs, but not so much that I thought that they needed to be, replaced. And I was wrong. So I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. Y'all will watch me rebuild this transmission on this channel over the winter. I hate doing stuff twice. I hate that this bike has taken me so long to put back together. And now that it's back together, it's immediately coming back apart. I guess just how it goes, That's why they call them trouble heads. Honestly, though, this isn't really anything about the bike. This is just me kind of being a crappy mechanic. So yeah, I'm kind of down. I'm not excited about the way this has all turned out. I'm not excited about missing Grundle Run. I don't want to just show up in a car. I don't want a trailer or a bike there. That just feels wrong. So maybe 2026 will be my year of actually making it to some campouts and some rallies and stuff. I never seem to make it to anything other than congregation. I'll see y'all at the congregation show like always. So on that note, thanks for watching. Sorry this has been kind of like a bummer downer episode, but that's the way she goes sometimes. I'm gonna go back inside, finish editing this video. I've got a really busy week ahead of me, so y'all will see me again sometime soon. Have fun at Grundle Run if you're going. If you're not, well, I guess we can all live vicariously through everyone else's internet posts or whatever. All right, bye.